Hi guys, welcome back again. I just built this thing yesterday. It's the level 5, 7, level 7 small vessel, the Mosquito. It has a shield. I just started recently my new survival game in Alpha 10, and I think I'm level 17 or something now, but I wanted a small SV to carry around with me to attack POIs with, basically take out the turrets. So this thing's level 7, but I'll probably use it in my game even at higher level. I've got some bigger SVs, but they cost a lot to build. This thing's pretty cheap. Only 85 Neo. Some of the bigger vessels, cost 200 or 300 or 400 Neo, and more Erustrum, Viscosium. Sathium's easy enough to get, but the Neo, you pretty much have to go around and salvage thrusters and things like that to get your Neo early in the early game anyway, until you've gone off planet to some of the other planets. So this thing was designed to be cheap. I'm using medium thrusters, 2 in every direction except for the up thrust. I've got some additional small thrusters, I think, on there. So 17, 17, 17, 24 up and 8 down. And it uses these little folding landing gear. Yeah, this little thruster cover here is deceiving because it's actually pointing down. There's 2 small thrusters I added, medium thrusters. Everything's medium except for those 2 small ones pointing, giving you additional up thrust. And I came about that by testing. Initially I didn't have those on there, and it was basically 17 or 18 in every direction, including down and up. The problem is, as mentioned, this thing does have a shield, and pentaxid weighs a lot. You see, it's you can have 500 volume, and that's basically 100 pentaxid, and that's 10 tons it adds to your weight. But for this thing doesn't have a warp drive. It's not big enough to have a warp drive, so it just needs pentaxid for the shields, and basically 4 or 5 pentaxid is all it takes to build the shields up. And once they're built, it may take a little bit to maintain it, especially if you're taking damage and they drop a little bit. So what I would do is put some in there, build up your shields before you leave the base or your ship, build your shields up to 100%, and then add maybe 5, maybe 10 more to carry with you. Take that out. So that's, a ton of pentaxid that you're carrying around. But that's all you need if you just take off, go attack some POI, and come back and land, and go take your whatever craft you want to go attack on foot, or however you're going to do the POI. But this thing was built mostly just to take out turrets on the base. So it's got 2 rocket launchers and 1 Gatling gun. You could swap that around. Rocket launchers are better for taking out turrets. You can still shoot down drones with a single Gatling gun, kind of depending on your skill. You could swap it around and do 2 Gatling guns and 1 rocket launcher. I played around with adding additional rocket launchers on here and Gatling guns. The problem again is the weight. I've still got those. Yeah, rocket launchers weigh, the mass on here is 900, so it's basically a ton, another ton for each of these that you add. These are less, 330 kilograms, so a third of a ton. Um, and the problem is, again, like with the pentaxid, on my earlier design, I didn't have the additional thrusters, and this got down to maybe 8 or something. With this setup, it maintains about 16 or 17 with a full tank of pentaxid, but you know, if you start adding additional stuff in there, it starts dropping down. You get to where it's really hard to move around. Speaking of which, I wanted to make this as flexible and efficient of a design as I could. So the ammo controller, 3324, basically the whole exterior is cargo extensions, except for these little trim blocks are actually plastic. But basically all your cargo is in the ammo box, so you can fill it up with, that's way more than you'd need for the rockets and 15 millimeter for the Gatling gun. So you put as much of that as you want in here, and as much as you can carry, and then use the rest of it for cargo. I do have 2 small cargo boxes, but they're only 125 volume, so they don't carry very much. But there's one on the port, one on the starboard side. Port's left, starboard right. So yeah, this is I like those little landing gear, little fold-up things. The way I did the trim blocks on the bottom, it's got texture lighting from the back, but not from the front. Same thing with the top trim blocks. It's something I was trying out, but anyway, this thing is a little 3x3 SV that doesn't take up any space. Cheap to build. My previous video was a little level 5 SV, but it didn't have shield generator and it didn't have the cargo it didn't have as much cargo space as this one. The shield generator is the primary thing though. At level 7 you can get the shield generator, and then you can, it doesn't matter that the exterior blocks are made out of cargo extensions or plastic, because they got to get through the shields before they start damaging blocks. So if you pay attention to your shield level, shouldn't be a problem. Hey guys, just breaking in here. I forgot I had this thing over here, and I thought some people may be interested. In the design of this thing, this was the original version. It had 2 medium thrusters pointing up, or pushing down, I should say. And I removed those and replaced them with 2 small thrusters pushing down, so that the up thrust doesn't have to push as hard. You get better performance that way. And I added the 2 small thrusters down here, but and a little bit of styling changes. Took the round piping off and replaced it with this these things. But I had this cutaway view basically to show you. When I'm building these things, I'm trying to use every block. Every block is precious space, and so when I talked about making it as flexible as possible, if I put a separate ammo controller and a separate cargo controller in here, I would have had to use blocks to separate them. They can't touch each other, and find ways to do that and still utilize all the space. So it's easier just to use a single ammo controller. You can put cargo in there. It doesn't hurt anything. It's just a different way of thinking about it. And And the other thing I found is there's my spotlight. It looks like there is no light on this thing, but you can see the spotlight shines right through any blocks. I'd been noticing that pretty much all the lights aren't blocked by blocks of various types. So I just stuck the spotlight right there. It shines right through the Gatling gun, but you don't see it externally. A little bit goofy, but it works. So here's and this is basically the bottom of the ship. There's a couple trim blocks here. These are plastic. This thing's got a shield, so it doesn't matter if it's plastic. All this is just covering up the devices. So there's basically one layer here, and a couple blocks up there. So the cargo extensions come out here, and then thrusters in the way, but this corner piece connects to this upper corner piece, and you can see that connects all of this is all cargo extensions around here. And then these that are textured like this are actually cargo extensions as well now. I noticed when I did this cutaway that these were still, based on some various designs changes, these were still plastic instead of extensions, but these are now extensions as well, back here, all the way back here, until you hit this thruster. So basically every usable block is used for something. I did throw a Wi-Fi in here. Initially I didn't have a Wi-Fi or refrigerator. I think I still don't have a refrigerator. I did have an O2 tank. It was basically a short sortie vessel, so you just go out, attack POI, and come back and use your own suit oxygen and food and whatnot. Oh, I guess I did put a fridge. So fridge right there, Wi-Fi there. Does have an O2 tank now, and those are the two port and starboard cargo boxes I was talking about before. Shield is right here, right beside a couple down thrusters or push you up. Generator, fuel tank somewhere. Fuel tank's there, and the pentaxid tank's right above it. So the pentaxid tank is right there. So anyway, I just thought I'd give you guys a little closer look and talk about how I go about doing things here. And that kind of ends up defining the shape of the ship. Kind of function over form for the most part, but I still try to make them look, aesthetically pleasing if possible. So there you go. So that's the Mosquito level 5 SV, starter SV basically. I'm sorry, level 7. Just above starter. And hope you found it useful, and I'll catch you next time.